Jack Doherty used to be just another internet personality chasing clicks. Now, he can't even walk down the street without security at his side, and that security team is on the verge of abandoning him. The question no one seems able to answer is why? Why has Jack burned so many bridges that he's effectively trapped himself in a world of fear and hostility? Why are the very people paid to protect him ready to walk away, leaving him exposed to the consequences of his own actions? It's a dark and messy story, one that begins with Jack's relentless pursuit of online notoriety. Over the years, Jack has built an empire on controversy and shock value. He's harassed strangers in public, picked fights on live streams, and dragged his security guards into moral and legal grey zones. For a while, he funded it all with massive paychecks from sponsors and streaming platforms, splurging on luxury cars, designer clothes, and multi-million-dollar mansions. But now, the foundation of Jack's riches is cracking at the seams. The money is drying up, his audience is splintering, and his security team is moments away from leaving him to face the mobs he's provoked. The real question isn't if Jack will implode, it's when. By breaking down the shocking incidents, the hidden payoffs, and the financial train wreck unfolding behind the scenes, we'll see precisely how someone who seemed untouchable ended up in an unstoppable downward spiral. And the more you discover, the harder it is to look away. The public first got a disturbing glimpse of Jack's ethical lines when he filmed a confrontation involving an elderly worker who was simply minding his own business. This bystander had the misfortune of being in Jack's camera shot, which Jack uses to grill random people for sensational footage. The moment Jack's security guard stepped forward, everything went wrong. Jack lobbed a few sarcastic questions at this older gentleman, questions that barely made sense but were intended to provoke a reaction. Security was supposed to be a calming presence, someone who stands by in case of real danger. Instead, Jack's personal guard escalated the situation by physically intimidating the man and hurling threats. Suddenly, the script flipped. The guard wasn't defending Jack. He became the aggressor, grabbing the man's microphone and warning him to "get out of my face." It was a shocking scene. A frail, unassuming individual cowered as a hulking bodyguard loomed over him. Commenters online were outraged. Onlookers in person stood open-mouthed at the audacity of a so-called protection professional acting like a bully. Even more disturbing, this wasn't an isolated moment. It was just one example in a long string of encounters where Jack's security team found themselves crossing ethical lines in the name of content. By the time the clip hit social media, the damage was done. Viewers didn't see a fearless influencer conquering the streets. They saw a man who had become so obsessed with cheap thrills and clickbait that he allowed his employees, his paid protectors, to assault innocent bystanders for entertainment. But that confrontation was only the tip of a much larger iceberg. The real dirt is in what motivated these security guards to step so far outside the norms of their profession. And it all comes down to money. Jack's feud with the elderly man didn't happen in a vacuum. For years, he has carved out a niche by antagonizing random people, exposing them on live streams, and indulging in borderline harassment for the sake of viral moments. Usually, these videos are easy to spot. Jack roams public places with a camera crew and leaps into strangers' personal space with bizarre questions or heated challenges. Whenever bystanders resist or push back, security steps in. But rather than diffuse the situation, they often escalate it, turning small misunderstandings into full-blown confrontations. Naturally, this approach has put a target on Jack's back. There's a growing list of people who feel wronged by him, store owners who blame him for filming inside their businesses without permission, fans who once admired him but felt betrayed by unethical stunts, and entire online communities that see him as a walking lawsuit waiting to happen. The scariest part, many of these folks are actively looking for payback. That means every time Jack leaves his house, there's a chance he'll run into someone who carries a deep grudge. It might be an individual whose private life he exposed on camera, or a group of frustrated fans who felt manipulated by his shock and awe content. Jack should be relying on his security to keep him safe from these very real threats. But how can he trust them when his guards are the same people stirring the pot in each confrontation? Viewers have started to piece together a pattern. The more often Jack stirs trouble, the more his guards jump to back him up in questionable ways. Online discussions speculate whether Jack is giving them secret bonuses or hush money for crossing the line. Now, details are finally emerging that these bonuses were part of a massive payout system, an under-the-table arrangement designed to ensure unwavering loyalty no matter how outrageous or illegal the requests became. At the end of each fiasco, Jack leaves with viral footage. His security guards leave with money and a damaged reputation. As this pattern repeats, the tension thickens. Industry professionals, especially those in the security field, are now discussing how Jack's team has tarnished the reputation of personal protection services as a whole. The question is, what's keeping these guards around if staying with Jack is clearly a dead end for their careers? The short answer: money, in amounts far above the industry standard. Rumors swirled for months that Jack was offering staggering wages to keep his security crew on call 24/7. We're not talking about a small premium. While typical security professionals might earn a respectable salary for a standard shift, Jack's guards were raking in multiples of that, courtesy of their boss's unquenchable thirst for internet fame. This overpayment wasn't about generosity. It was about compliance. Jack needed them to do more than stand at his side. He wanted them ready to jump into the action, no questions asked, whenever he found himself in a public meltdown. And they did exactly that. They protected Jack physically, but also indulged his worst instincts. If Jack felt like screaming insults at an unsuspecting passerby, the guards had to stand behind him, glaring at the victim. If Jack decided to trespass in a private event for shock value, the guards formed a human barricade to keep the cameras rolling. For a while, it all worked smoothly. Jack's finances were bolstered by streaming revenues, brand deals, merchandise lines, and an enormous social media following. In interviews, he flaunted his wealth, bragging about dropping tens of thousands on a single night out. He boasted about paying his guards handsomely because they had to be more than average to keep up with his unstoppable hustle. The message was clear: stay loyal to Jack, and you'll be rewarded beyond anything a traditional security job could offer. But money has a funny way of disappearing when your entire empire is built on controversy. As soon as sponsors began distancing themselves and streaming platforms started banning him, Jack's golden goose stopped laying eggs. Revenue streams dried up, one after another. Even his merchandise line saw a sharp decline in sales, thanks to repeated scandals that drove away fans. No sponsor wants to be linked to a troublemaker who can't go a week without trending for all the wrong reasons. Suddenly, the inflated paychecks Jack used to keep his security guards in line started shrinking, and that's when the real meltdown began. At first, Jack shrugged off early warning signs of financial trouble. Sure, a few sponsors pulled out. Sure, he was losing ad revenue from certain platforms, but Jack had always felt unstoppable. He believed the next big viral video would bring in more money to replace the lost income. Instead, the hits just kept coming. The final blow to Jack's stability was a ban from his primary streaming platform after a particularly violent altercation was caught on camera. This was no temporary suspension. It meant the end of monthly streaming checks that once covered the majority of his lavish expenses. Suddenly, the extravagant lifestyle, luxury sports cars, a mansion that cost 5 figures in monthly rent, constant international travel, and around-the-clock security was in jeopardy. Desperate to keep afloat, Jack tried questionable schemes. He promoted gambling sites to a younger audience, leading to further backlash and potential legal scrutiny. He jumped onto the meme coin bandwagon, endorsing suspicious tokens that promptly crashed, leaving his fans feeling duped. Each new scheme not only chipped away at the credibility he had left, but also didn't generate nearly enough cash to sustain his old spending habits. Observers compared Jack's downfall to that of the Island Boys, internet personalities who soared in popularity before going bankrupt due to irresponsible spending and a refusal to adapt. They still had the option to walk around in public without personal guards. Jack, however, had made too many enemies to feel secure, even taking a stroll around the block. He'd become a prisoner of his own controversy, and the walls were closing. With a public image in tatters, sponsors fleeing, and monthly bills piling up, Jack found himself in uncharted territory. Negative cash flow. That's the financial equivalent of throwing water overboard while the ship keeps springing new leaks. Each week, Jack scrambled to plug the holes, but it wasn't enough. His lifestyle cost hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and without a stable platform to bank on, those funds were evaporating faster than ever. Being a bodyguard is more than standing around looking tough. It's a respected profession that relies on trust, credibility, and impeccable conduct. Clients count on you not just for muscle, but also for judgment, discretion, and adherence to the law. When you sign on with someone like Jack, you risk trading that professional code for a promise of easy money, and that decision can haunt you long after the paychecks stop coming. In the security world, reputations travel quickly. Guards who are known to escalate conflicts or appear in viral videos roughing up civilians often find themselves blacklisted. The thought process is straightforward. If you can't maintain your composure with one client, who's to say you won't cause legal or PR disasters with another? Jack's team, lured by big money, consistently broke the standard protocols. They didn't simply keep a perimeter, they became active participants in confrontations. Instead of guiding Jack away from trouble, they helped him create it. In some of the worst moments, it appeared as though the guards themselves instigated fights just for the sake of getting more dramatic footage. Think about how that looks to a future employer, especially a high-profile individual like a musician or a tech billionaire who values privacy and professionalism above all else. Now, with Jack's financial meltdown, the once generous pay has evaporated. The same guards who, for a time, made more money than they ever had, are confronted by a grim reality. They've burned bridges in the wider security industry. Their association with Jack tarnishes them by default, making new contracts scarce. Even if they walk away, can they rebuild their credibility? Corporate clients don't want to hire ex-Jack Doy guards who are recognized for crossing legal and ethical lines on YouTube. The irony is thick. They risk their futures for short-term gains, only to end up with no long-term prospects. Jack Doy has made an entire career out of calling people out, mocking them, and sparking conflict. So it's no surprise that multiple groups and individuals hold grudges. Some of these feuds are public, with long Twitter threads or live-streamed arguments. Others are private, simmering until the right moment to strike. The moment Jack decided that controversy was his brand, he guaranteed he'd have to look over his shoulder for as long as he stayed in the spotlight. At times, Jack's streams show random strangers stepping up to him, ready to fight. They're not shy about making threats, and they certainly don't mind getting physical. Jack's normal response? Laugh it off or direct his security guards to handle it. In the past, that strategy worked. His guards formed a barrier, fans watched, and the confrontation turned into trending clips. But if those guards exit the picture, who's going to shield Jack from the wave of hostility that's been building? Add to that the mental toll of living in constant fear. Jack might not admit it publicly, but behind the scenes there's an unmistakable paranoia. He's surrounded by scorned acquaintances and ex-friends who feel betrayed by random individuals who claim he owes them money or an apology, and by a general public that sees him as the internet's most obnoxious villain. Fearful or not, Jack can't back down now. His brand relies on arrogance and bravado, even when it puts him at risk. This cycle feeds itself. The more trouble Jack stirs, the more enemies he makes. The more enemies he makes, the more he needs security. But if he can't afford that security, the danger intensifies, which ramps up the tension in his public videos. It's a downward spiral, and every step Jack takes seems to accelerate his own collapse. And perhaps worst of all, each time he tries to stage a comeback, it involves riskier behavior, attracting even more negativity and controversy. As finances tighten, Jack's stunts have hit disturbing new levels. Fans who once tuned in for comedic or edgy pranks are now voicing concern or outright disgust at his willingness to exploit anyone and everyone for clicks. One infamous case saw Jack trying to seduce his own brother's boyfriend, an unnerving scenario that made many viewers question his morals. Instead of comedic relief, it felt exploitative and invasive. Even more troubling is how his security guards are forced into these stunts, willingly or not. Sometimes they act as lookouts, making sure no one interrupts Jack's personal shows. Other times, they appear in the background, clearly uncomfortable, but lacking the courage to step away or protest. The lines between personal privacy, professional duty, and outright manipulation have become hopelessly blurred. All the while, Jack sees these controversies as a path to maintaining his dwindling fame. The reality, though, is that these extreme tactics rarely hold an audience for long. After the initial shock, people move on, leaving Jack with yet another short-lived scandal. And each time, it pushes him closer to the abyss. Fewer sponsors, fewer fans, more enemies, and an increasingly restless security team. It's a precarious dance on the edge of irrelevance, and one misstep could send him spiraling. Jack Doy's empire is not just teetering on the brink, it's already begun its collapse. The key players in this downfall, his security guards, who now hold all the cards. Once, they were overpaid enablers. turning a blind eye to Jack's spiral in exchange for financial gain. Now that those gains have dried up, they see no reason to risk jail time, lawsuits, or irreparable damage to their reputations for a man who can no longer compensate them. They've watched Jack cross too many lines. They've followed him into altercations that flirted with legal disaster. They've become the face of intimidation for a creator who thrived on stirring conflict. For many in the security field, it's an open and shut case. You don't want these guys on your roster because their judgment is compromised, their moral compass skewed by money, and their brand tied to chaos. Yet, the alternative, staying with Jack while he burns through the last of his resources, seems even worse. The more unhinged Jack's stunts become, the greater the risk. If they remain under his employment and another public meltdown escalates to violence, they might not just lose future job opportunities, they could lose their entire careers and even face legal repercussions. What does Jack do if they finally walk out? He's repeatedly proven that he can't handle hostile confrontations alone. He's angered enough people that stepping outside without protection is akin to painting a target on his back, whether it's someone he humiliated on a live stream or a random stranger tired of his antics. The threat level is high. Stripped of his guards, Jack might have no choice but to go into hiding or radically transform his approach. At this point, Jack has three possible paths. Find a miracle revenue stream. Maybe he stumbles onto a new platform willing to pay him as much as his old deals, or secures a sponsor who doesn't mind his tarnished brand. This would allow him to maintain his current lifestyle and keep paying for security, though it's a long shot. Downsize and apologize. Jack could drastically reduce his spending, attempt to rehabilitate his public image, and begin the arduous process of repairing burnt bridges. This path demands genuine remorse and a shift away from controversy-driven content. Possible? Yes. Likely? That's another story. Continue the downward spiral. Most signs point here. Jack seems unwilling to abandon the spectacle that made him famous. If he keeps doubling down, he'll lose the little support he has left, culminating in a final crash. Finances exhausted, security gone, and a world of enemies waiting. There's a sobering lesson in Jack's story. It's a demonstration of what happens when internet fame and wealth are used purely to stoke the flames of controversy. Without a sustainable foundation or a shred of responsibility, that fame can vanish overnight, leaving only debts, damaged reputations, and a long list of people who want payback. Jack's security team seems to have realized this. They're not quitting just because the money dried up. They're walking away from a ticking time bomb, and once they go, Jack will face the harsh consequences of his actions head-on, likely without a single person left to shield him. The big question remains, is there still time for Jack to pivot? Could a complete rebranding save him from the fate that befell other fallen internet stars? Or has he already burned through every ounce of public goodwill, ensuring that even a heartfelt apology would fall on deaf ears? As you watch this spectacle unfold, remember, controversies might rack up clicks in the short term, but they come with a massive price tag in the end. Jack is now staring at the bill, and it's only getting bigger. Without his security team, he can't safely roam the streets. And with each passing day, the people he's angered become less of an online threat and more of a real-world danger. If you found this story both shocking and strangely compelling, hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden truths behind internet personalities. And before you move on, consider sharing your thoughts. Do you think Jack can adapt and salvage his career, or is he doomed to a reckoning he brought upon himself? Your guess might be as good as anyone's, but one thing's certain, this saga is far from over. Something tells me the most dramatic chapter has yet to be written.